On everyone, Doctor Strange 2 in the Multiverse of Madness is right around the corner, and there is so much hype and excitement for the upcoming film. So many characters are likely going to be integrated into this upcoming installment. I mean, we already have the Illuminati confirmed. It's likely the introduction to the X-Men, the Fantastic Four. I mean, the list goes on the potential of characters in this upcoming installment. It is supposed to be Avengers Endgame as far as characters introduced, so that is in and of itself a super exciting element and a big reason why you'd want to go watch this film. Who is going to be in this film? What characters are going to be in this film? Who's going to play said characters? So on and so forth. Also, beyond that, you have what is likely going to be what shapes the MCU going forward, right? You're going to have this Doctor Strange film just basically breaking all the rules, traveling through all these different dimensions, all of these things, and it's going to have some implications. It's going to have some effects on the franchise going forward. But a big question that I want to ask you all, and of course, hear your opinions, so make sure you join it down in the discussions in the comment section. But when it comes to this film, is it possible that it will be underwhelming, even possibly convoluted to a point where it loses a lot of the audience? Now, again, this film is super hyped. It is super exciting, looking forward to this film. But when you introduce such a huge influx of characters and you have all of these elements and all of these different worlds and universes, and depending on how they lay it out and how they truly go about it, you really run the risk of just over convoluting your film to where the big question becomes like, I want more about those characters. I want more about this. I want more about that. And yes, it gives Marvel the potential to create all kinds of spin-offs and shows and series and whatever the case may be, other films, things like that. But it isn't going to happen far down the line. And you're in a moment where it's like, you get excited for one character, you don't really get to digest that character, and they're moving on to a new character, and it's just this never-ending just evolution of just new characters, new reveals, new excitement, which, don't get me wrong, is great. And many people, I do believe, will really buy into that idea. As you see Deadpool, you're like, wow, it's Deadpool. Like, there's Ryan Reynolds, there's this, there's that. And then you see, like, John Krasinski as, like, Mr. Fantastic or something. You're just like, wow, oh, there's Iron Man as Tom Cruise. Like, but the train never stops, and therefore it becomes convoluted. And the last thing you remember is the last thing you saw in reality, right? So you're not, as a whole, it is very likely that the discussions won't necessarily be about the main plot, the main story, the main, focus, the things that they really need to get across in this film to establish the future of the MCU. And instead it becomes about the favorite reveal or the favorite character. And you just have this never-ending cycle, this train, so to speak, just passing by all these various worlds and characters. Because you imagine there's also going to be a lot of things that are bleak, that are just in a moment. You see it, he's traveling through these worlds, through these different dimensions. You're seeing all these characters, you're seeing all these little cameos and stuff. Yeah, it's fun to navigate and find all the Easter eggs, and after you see the film, go on YouTube and see people break down all the little details, all the little nuances and stuff. Oh, I didn't notice that, I didn't see that. But again, the narrative becomes about all of that, like the little clues, the little characters, the little passerbys, rather than the film and the story itself. And so, does it get perceived as the quality of film and the establishment of the franchise, of just the MCU as a whole moving forward? I don't think it's going to be a bad film. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that like, oh, you're going to watch this film, it's going to be terrible, but they're going to have a bunch of these cameos, so it'll make up for it. No, I'm just saying the way that people usually digest things is within moments, right? When you're watching a film, you're watching these moments pass throughout, a 2 hour, 2.5 hour, whatever the case may be, hour and 30 minutes. And you're picking up these little pieces. And yes, you're following along on the overall story, but the story is usually very fluid. It's very like, here you go, here's the start, here's the middle, here's the end. Where it comes with this, if they have so many different plots and so many different stories and so many different introductions, it might get hard to follow the generic story, which is very likely what is the most important element about this film. This film isn't about just, here is a ton of new characters, here's a ton of different variations of characters, here's a ton of just like really cool awesome moments, it has to be within the flux of the story. Like we saw that with Avengers, right? Yeah, you had a just multitude of different characters, but they were characters that were built through the entire history of Marvel films leading to that moment. They all sort of culminated and came together in that moment. So you had time to learn about those characters. You had time to see those characters, to dive into those characters, to kind of go through the transition into like, here they all are together, and it becomes exciting. Again, it's within the frame scope of the overall film, because all of the films essentially led to Infinity War and Endgame. And so all of the characters that were a part of that were already pre-established. They were already characters that we fell in love with, that we knew, or at least were aware of ahead of time. So when it came in and it fit the story, it made sense. And it had to be broken down into 2 movies for it all to come together to make sense. So you basically had 5 hours, 6 hours of just total film to really take the time to digest. It was paced out. It was in a story where a film like this, it very likely is going to be cram-packed into the 2.5 hours or whatever it is of just like film, and you're still going to have the story. Like Spider-Man No Way Home, it was great. If you haven't seen that movie, it's been a long time, so just to let you know, I'm going to spoil the big element, which I think even if you haven't seen the movie, you likely know what that is at this point. But like when you saw Spider-Man, you got what we wanted from a fan service standpoint. You got the Tobey Maguire, the Andrew Garfield style Spider-Man, but it fit the frame of the story. It made sense. It was this big overall story, but it was so spread out. It wasn't convoluted. It wasn't something that that was passing moments, quick, boom, 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 hit after hit after hit. It was within the scope of the film, so you digested it. It was exciting. You were able to take it in. You had moments to really just digest what is happening, get excited for those characters, embrace those characters. Like, oh, you got the nostalgia factor. All of these things played a part into that, where in the upcoming Multiverse of Madness, you're going to have very brief moments with these characters. Some you'll likely have longer. Like it seems like the Illuminati moment is going to be probably an extended scene, and you're going to have like quite an introduction to these characters. But what about all the various different Wandas, and what about all the different Doctor Strange characters? What about if they do have these Iron Mans and these other Captain Americas that we see that look like to be on the trailer, and all the little sub characters that are important to helping Doctor Strange navigate through this and all that stuff? You have so many things that are going to be plugged into this film that really just, again, runs the risk of it failing and falling short and not being the type of film that people want. There, of course, is a large group of people that they're not going to care. They just want to see the Iron Man, Tom Cruise playing Iron Man. They just want to see, Deadpool show up. They want to see the X-Men and the Fantastic Four and all these things. And they could care less about anything else. Of course, that's always a group. But there is a group that follows these films very closely. There is a group that wants to know the overall story. That, yes, they want to see the characters, of course, because that's the fun part, right? Having all this influx of various characters. But they still want to understand and be able to grasp the story. And if you just have these constant moments that are taking you out of the story, out of the film itself, and you're never really truly able to take in that excitement because it's just moving on from one to another, then it becomes just this one blended mess that is not what they want this film to be, is not what they want this film to perceive. And even people that are excited to see all of these various characters, if there's not time for them to really take it all in, and it's just, you're just getting a hit after hit after hit after hit after hit, eventually it becomes underwhelming. If somebody comes up to you and hands you $100, you're excited. But eventually, if people just keep handing you $100, eventually it loses that excitement. That first hit, that first here you go, you're like, oh my God, thank you so much. This is great. I love this. Wow. And then if before you even finish getting excited, somebody else hands you another 100, yeah, you're still excited, but you're not that initial excited. And then another one, and then another one, and then another one. And then eventually you reach a point where it's just like, cool, I got a ton of money, but now the excitement for somebody coming and handing you that 100, you're just like, yeah, cool, thanks, I appreciate you, thank you so much. It doesn't have that same excitement. where that's what I kind of see for this film. You know, like you have all of these characters, like here's another one, here's another one, here's another one. And you're like, yes, oh my God, this is crazy. Oh, what? Whoa, them too? Oh, okay, yeah, them. Okay. Oh, okay, yeah, cool. All right, cool. Yep, that character's in there too. Oh, there's another version of Doctor Strange. Okay. Oh, here we are over here. You know, you get what I'm saying? It just becomes this like, okay, it eventually reaches the point where it becomes underwhelming rather than what this film is supposed to be, which is just super exciting. Here's a bunch of crazy characters. Here is a great story that's going to set up the future of the MCU, but you don't even have time to take that all in. You don't even have time to understand and grasp everything that's going on in this film. I think that could become a real issue. I think that can become a real problem. And yes, again, there's tons of excitement. I'm excited for this film. I'm looking forward to this film. Not just that, but it's like the first Marvel horror movie. I'm curious to see how this unfolds. And don't get me wrong, they might very well put this movie together flawlessly, and this doesn't happen. But the issue is we don't know how the film's going to look yet until it actually comes out. So we only have to go off of what we know about, what we can speculate about, what is likely to happen. And I think that this is something that is at least a concern that I haven't really seen anybody talk about in regards to this upcoming film. And I think it's something that needs to be addressed and at least worthy of a conversation. So that being said, as always, is a discussion. So I want to hear from you. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Do you agree with me? Do you think like, yeah, it is there? You do run the risk of losing that excitement, losing that luster for the film, and really taken away from the overall story that's supposed to set up the MCU going forward? Or are you on the side where it's like, no, it doesn't matter. Like, that's the whole point. The whole point is to keep giving us those hits. Like, let's see it. Let's keep it coming, which I do understand. Like, that's what you're going into this movie for. I mean, one of the big advertisements when they first announced this was this is going to have more characters in it than Endgame, and it's going to introduce so many different characters. And then the rumor mills and all of the excitement all went down, and everybody started talking about it, and it really added this freshness, this excitement. And then we got Spider-Man, and it was like, look, they can do that. And it was just like this new level of excitement. So now you just have this Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness on a pedestal, essentially. And the issue is, now it has to live up to those expectations. You know, now it has to live up to the hype and excitement. And if it doesn't, then now the conversation changes. Where if it was just this film that was put out there and you let the audience figure it out and you let the audience be surprised, because they've taken away a lot of the surprises. They've taken away a lot of the excitement. Like even Spider-Man. People already knew what was going to happen. It was already rumored. It was already out there. I mean, there were leaks, there was everything. But people didn't care because it was just exciting. It was fresh. But this seems to be built around that. Like, you know, this whole story of all these various characters and all these different universes. And it's like you've given away a ton of those characters already. And so that means there's got to be a lot more than just what we've gotten. And we've gotten a lot already. So it runs the risk of just convolution in your film. It's just something that, again, I don't know. We'll find out. I mean, it's very likely that they already figured it out, that it all fits within the grand scheme of the overall story, and it works, and it's perfect, and it's beautiful, and everything's great, and it's a perfect film. And we'll all have a different discussion later. But at least for right now, we don't know what that's going to look like. So I think that this is at least a point that needs to be made, that needs to be brought up, that needs to be discussed. So again, let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me out a lot. Lets me know you enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. If you're not subscribed to the channel, what are you doing? Hit that subscribe button, follow with the bell notification, stay up to date with all things movies, join this wonderful community and all of our discussions. See you all in the next one. Thank you.